First and foremost, let me start this video by saying, yes, I am a 30-year-old adult. Yes, I know this is a kid's movie. And no, I don't care if you disagree with me or not, because personally, Minions are fucking awesome. I mean, minus the endless amount of memes from the boomers on Facebook that even to this day are somehow still going strong and are still just as annoying as ever. Outside of that, I think the Minions are actually funny little banana people that are just stupid enough for me to enjoy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying these are good movies by any stretch. But in line with what this channel is kind of for, the question is, what kind of bad are they? In order to answer this question, we have to get to the plot. So with that, let's get into it. The movie opens with a narrator telling us the Minions have been on Earth longer than we have, and they only have one goal: serve the most despicable master. Because they're kind of bad at everything they do, the Banana Boys keep getting their bosses killed over and over and over, and like a lot of overs again. All these accidental killings catch up to them when Napoleon's army chases them so far that they end up in a cave. At first, everything seems like a paradise, but over time, they grow depressed and have to go to Minion therapy. After this little soft opener, we meet Kevin, the Minion who comes up with the plan to save his tribe. He ventures out with Bob and Stuart to find a new boss to serve and break everyone out of their funk. Our trio ends up in New York City in 1968, and this is where they also get their iconic overalls, which were just in a set of 3, conveniently on a clothesline. Bob gets accidentally placed in the trunk of a taxi, and after he gets out, he wanders into a giant department store. Kevin and Stuart chase after him, and by the time they catch up to him, the store suddenly closes and is completely empty. While trying to get a TV to work, they end up on the Dark Channel, which has a commercial for VillainCon. Realizing that this is the best place to find their new boss, the 3 set out with a new goal: to find a boss at VillainCon. During the commercial, we're introduced to the #1 villain, Scarlet Overkill, who is apparently also the first ever woman supervillain. After learning how to hitchhike from a hippie, Bob, Stuart, and Kevin get picked up by the Nelson family, who are also conveniently heading to VillainCon. You learn that they're bad guys when they pull over and halt the road trip in order to rob a bank, and for some reason, that's just hilarious to me. This leads to the Minions shooting a rocket launcher at the police cars that chase them and unintentionally saving the day. The Nelsons are impressed by this, and then the dad lies when he says that they've arrived to the beautiful city of Orlando. Orlando is not beautiful, it's hot and sticky, but whatever you say there, Batman. No, seriously, the father is actually voiced by Batman, Michael Keaton. Anyways, the Nelsons part ways with Kevin, Bob, and Stuart so they can set out to fulfill their mission. Scarlet Overkill makes her appearance and gives a speech about everyone being evil and having big dreams. Luckily for the Banana Boys, Scarlet is actually looking for new henchmen, but there's a slight twist. She holds out a gem and says that whoever can take it from her gets the job, and this results in everyone flinging themselves at her in order to grab it. Bob accidentally swallows the gem, and much to everyone's surprise, Scarlet scoops them up and takes the trio with her. They head off to England while the cave minions sing and dance for their new Yeti boss they just now have in their cave. There's this side plot about the minions in the cave and how they find this Yeti and start worshiping him. It doesn't really last very long because they end up performing for him and they bring the house down, quite literally, and kill the Yeti, so then they decide to book it to England to regroup with everyone else. Which results in another side plot of us occasionally cutting back to them and all the antics they get up to, which is pretty funny, but honestly not really worth mentioning throughout this plot. We meet Scarlet's husband Herb, an inventor super genius. Her words, not mine. The first mission is for the Minions to steal the Queen of England's crown, and if they do, all their dreams will come true. Herb gives them gadgets, which include a stretch suit for Bob, Kevin gets a lava gun, and Stuart, for some reason, is handed a hat that can hypnotize people. In the form of a bedtime story, Scarlet basically tells them that if they fail to get the crown, she's going to blow them up. When they go to steal the crown, Stuart makes a bunch of guards strip down and dance by using his hypno hat. Very appropriate for a kids movie to have grown men in underwear being forced to dance by a pill-shaped yellow demon. Kevin uses the lava gun to break open the crown room, and a blind old guy who's known as the Keeper starts beating them with his cane. The crown goes into the floor, and the Minions pursue the queen on stilts while a bunch of cops pour their tea and chase after them. All this leads to a great moment when Bob pulls the sword from the stone and all the British people collapse in awe. Oh, humor at the expense of the British. always a classic. That means Bob is now the King of England, and in another cutaway, the moon landing is being faked all of a sudden. King Bob's reign doesn't last too long as Scarlet comes knocking to point guns in his face and make threats. But because the Banana Boys want to give Scarlet the crown, Bob uses his power to literally change the laws in order to make her the new queen. Too bad for them, Scarlet kinda sucks, so she locks them in the dungeon as she doesn't like loose ends. Herb is there to torture them, but because the minions are shaped all strange and a super weird species, none of the torture techniques work on them. Too bad the security in Buckingham Palace is terrible, because in the torture dungeon is a grate that leads to the sewer and also a Beatles reference. Alright minions, now you're starting to overdo it just a little much with the references here. Scarlet is getting crowned queen, but the minions, still believing they can make up for what they did, go to her to try to make up. The trio ends up on the roof, and after running away from a bee, they wind up on the chandelier that's directly over Scarlet. More antics involve, which results in the chandelier falling, almost killing her, which then causes her to go all psycho, so the villains chase after the three in the streets of London. A fishman ends up taking Bob, and the rest of the minions show up on the subway for a mind the gap joke. Kevin then stumbles into a bar where the old queen is drinking and arm wrestling drunk dudes. On the TV, Kevin sees that Scarlet has taken both Bob and Stuart hostage, and she threatens to kill them if he doesn't show up by dawn. So Kevin sneaks into Scarlet's house to steal Herb's inventions, just as the villains show up to stop him. He hides in a pod that, when activated, turns him into a giant minion. With his new giant size, Kevin heads off to save Bob and Stuart, who are currently strapped to tons of TNT. Unfortunately, Minions then makes a weird pee joke by having it look like Kevin peed in order to stop the explosives. Scarlet is about to obliterate all the extra minions, but Kevin slaps her through a building in a pretty comical moment. She comes back, and after a quick fight, Kevin decides to swallow the missile she shoots in order to save everyone. As she tries to fly away, he grabs onto her, and then they fly up into the air and explode. Luckily, Kevin used his giant overalls as a parachute and ends up living. The Queen says that England owes a great deal of gratitude towards them, but this is all their fault. So maybe all that arm wrestling broke her brain. I don't know. Scarlet makes one last run at the crown, but this time she is foiled by a little Gru. Immediately seeing his potential as a villain, the minions decide this is their new master. So Gru flies off into sunset cackling while all the minions chase after him on foot. I think what I appreciate the most about the Minions, and to some extent the Despicable Me movies, although I think those are just good movies, but the Minions movie knows it's stupid, so it doesn't hold back. This world is so silly. Villain cons that are on the dark TV stations, dresses that double as rockets, and the Queen of England arm wrestling people in a pub. None of this is normal, but all of it is fun because of that. I know this is a kids movie, but so many movies that are classified as being for kids, like Scooby-Doo, the Emoji Movie, the Bee Movie, Cars 2, and so on, all have so many jokes and references for adults. Sometimes, like in Minions, it almost feels like this is an adult movie with a few kid jokes sprinkled in. I always find it funny when the scale tips in the opposite direction, but because kids have small brains, don't at me, it's a fact of science. And because of that, and their tiny brains, they enjoy just about anything you put in front of them. Plus, when you get a stacked voice cast like Sandra Bullock, John Hamm, and Michael Keaton, it's no wonder this thing made over $1 billion. I like how we see that the Minions just evolved like everything else, and that's why they're so weird and also maybe invincible. They evolved to not die, which is hilarious, that all throughout time, these little yellow guys will probably be around. I also just realized there are no women in the Minion tribe, so they don't reproduce, which is probably a good thing. One of my favorite moments is this quick glimpse we get of all the Queen's guards riding on corgis playing polo. Like, what else could you possibly ask for? All the side characters are entertaining and fun regardless of how much or little screen time they get. The Nelson family the Minions meet are a non-stop thrill ride, and you kinda hope they pop up again throughout the rest of the movie. And the balance of personality between Kevin, Bob, and Stuart was a smart choice. I think you could have easily had all the Minions be roughly the same, but each one, weirdly enough, has a unique trait and it helps them all stand out from each other. It's a kids movie that has enough for adults to enjoy and is so stupid at every corner. This is the kind of movie I love to put directly into so bad it's good. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out my review on Hellboy the Crooked Man. It's actually better than you might think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below what movie you'd like to see me cover in the future.